Welcome to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
John and Heidi.
Here's John and Heidi.
Happy Leap Day, everybody. Thanks for listening on a Monday. Heidi, how you doing?
I'm good. Are you ready to focus?
I am. It's Leap Day. We're not usually here on Leap Day. It's like happens only once every 4 years. Coming up here in a bit, we're going to be talking with author Mark Bragg. He's got a book called Economic Conservative Social Liberal. Title's confusing. The book is not. It's a cool book. I'm looking forward to reading the whole thing. I've been skimming through this. It's nice. 2 middle school teachers in L.A. say they've been able to help improve students' grades in science by coming to class dressed as Star Trek characters. The students were also encouraged to dress in Star Trek uniforms, and the teachers say it really helps get them excited
I'm
about
sure
science.
It does.
So there you go. Live long and prosper. So that's happening in Los Angeles. Do you think our kids even know what Star Trek is? Because a lot of kids wouldn't even know what that is.
Our kids know what Star Trek is.
Okay.
They don't watch it, but they know what it is.
I think that's cool that they found something that the kids are interested in. So that is really, really neat. In a bit, we're going to talk about what special things are happening on Leap Day. That's on the way.
John and Heidi.
Today is a special day, Heidi. Do you know what today is?
What is today, John?
Thought you would never ask. It is Monday, the 29th day of February. If you happen to have a birthday today, it's a really cool thing, because you only celebrate your birthday once every 4 years.
See, now I don't think that would be a cool thing because you're still aging. You just don't get to have a celebration.
A lot of people celebrate on the 1st of March, so they would celebrate, anyway, even if they... And there are some places where if you were born on this day, they put a different date down anyway. So it all depends. But today, in addition to it being Leap Year Day, it is Bachelor's Day today. It's International Underlings Day today.
Underlings?
Underlings, yeah. And it's Rare Disease Day today.
There you go.
So don't celebrate with that one. But get out there and celebrate the Leap Day. Here's what I suggest you do today. Anything that you've been putting off and you just haven't gotten around to doing it, today's an extra day. I mean, you can literally say, hey, you know what? It's an extra day. I got time to do it. I got a whole extra day to do it. So do something special and get something done that you've been putting off. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by Knowles Systems. If you have funds earning less than 6%, listen to this. Commercial mortgage bridge loans pay 6% to 8%. That might be just what you need. You're placed in first position on loans secured by high-quality commercial real estate like hotels, apartments, and office buildings. Your principal never fluctuates in value. You receive 6% per year paid monthly, and your principal is returned in full at the end of each cycle. You never pay commissions, management fees, or asset charges, and you can make these loans inside or outside of an IRA. I'll give you a toll-free number to call, 888-547-8007. Start earning 6% now. Call 888-547-8007.
John and Heidi.
You know it's true because you heard it on the radio. Imagine reading your own obituary.
Ugh.
That happened to a woman just recently. It was a tough weekend for Roxanne Trent. Friday, she broke up with her boyfriend. Saturday, she read her own obituary.
Did the boyfriend put it in the paper?
Roxy received a call from her sister early that Saturday morning. She said, I just read your obituary. And it said that Roxy had died from an apparent homicide the day before. The obituary was originally seen by her uncle, who proceeded to notify relatives throughout the country regarding her death. How did all this happen? B.T. Austin and Sons Funeral Home sent an official obituary form for Roxy to the newspaper. But when contacted, officials at the funeral home said they had received no report from the police or the morgue. It is now believed that it was a hoax put together by Roxy's ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Right away.
Coincidentally, guess where he works?
At the funeral home.
Yeah, he works at the funeral home. So
I bet he doesn't anymore.
That was a funny joke there, Bob. You might want to just pack all your stuff up now because you don't work here. That is just terrible. You don't do that.
No.
First you break her heart, then you say that she's dead. You don't do that.
Well, she might have broken his heart. We don't know what happened.
Well, it says she broke up with her boyfriend. So, yeah, it doesn't really say if he broke up with her or if she broke up with him. But anyway, can you imagine reading your own obituary?
I don't know. If I had access to something, I can't say I'm above probably doing something like that, which is probably why I don't work in a morgue.
You don't have. I don't even let you comment.
No,
on our
I'm not
Facebook
even allowed
page.
on our Facebook page.
She's no longer an administrator on there because I was like, no, you got to quit, Heidi. Quit being mean to people. Okay. You're off of
People
here.
were mean to me.
Yeah.
I was just protecting
They
myself.
started it. All right. All I can tell you about this one is it's true because you heard it on the radio.
John and Heidi.
The John and Heidi Show is brought to you in part by the Keystone Treatment Center.
This is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs. We share silly stories here on the program, but addiction is no joke. If you or someone you know suffers with an addiction to drugs or alcohol, make today the day you seek help.
Call toll-free 844-204-1055.
That's a toll-free number. Again,
844-204-1055.
and this is your brain on drugs. Drugs, and they don't do just about anything else, don't go together. You don't put drugs plus anything and have something good, but certainly not drugs plus grenades.
Whoa.
That's bad. A German man bought 3 hand grenades from a flea market in Bosnia. He took them home to Frankfurt, Germany, and kept them in a drawer for 10 years. After drinking heavily with friends, he showed them the grenades.
That's
One
a good
friend
idea.
said, "Oh, those aren't real." So the German man said, "Oh, yeah? Check this out." He pulled the pin and threw it out the window. The grenade, not the pin. It exploded between 2 buildings, and thank goodness nobody was injured. Police seized the other 2 grenades and arrested the man. Here's my question.
I can't believe they were selling live grenades at a flea market.
What kind of flea markets do they have in Bosnia?
Way more exciting flea markets than we have around here.
I've been to flea markets, and I love going to flea markets. We actually watched a show for a long time called Flea Market Finds. It was neat. But I never saw a single time. I've never, ever seen hand grenades. Never.
No.
Not that I would buy them. I just think it's interesting.
I'd probably buy one.
That's the kind of thing that happens, kids, when your brain is on drugs.
John and Heidi.
We've got a moment of duh coming to us from the farm today. It's a 52-year-old Frank Burrell. He's got a lesson of how not to break up a fight between your kids. He's got 2 grown sons, aged 25 and 27. They were fighting in the front yard of his farm. One chased the other with a pitchfork. The other brother punched him, causing him to drop the pitchfork. Then they both fell to the ground and started pummeling each other. That's when Frank, that's Dad, decided to intervene. He came over and struck one of his sons in the head with the shovel.
Oh.
Well, it stopped the fight. When the ambulance arrived, they found the other son sitting in the front yard with blood pouring from his head. He was flown by helicopter to the hospital where he was treated and released. Dad was arrested. They said, "What were you guys fighting about anyway?" Nobody could remember. They're like,
I'm not sure.
I'm not really sure why we were fighting. But I'm sure it was important, whatever it was. So there you go. That comes from Frank Burrell, the farmer, and his 2 sons. Their fight involved a pitchfork, a shovel, and the police. That's bad.
Wow.
Coming up, we've got your scoop of the day.
The Scoop of the Day is brought to you by Wells Blue Bunny. If you want delicious ice cream, be sure to look for the Blue Bunny. Sure to have your favorite flavors. Learn more at bluebunny.com.
Now, your scoop of the day. And I'll tell you, this story right here is an interesting story. A 440-pound man from Germany was so bulky that he only suffered minor injuries when he was rolled over by a Volkswagen.
Whoa.
A vehicle it hit him and rolled over the top of him, and he only received, and I quote, minor injuries, being run over. That's crazy. He's a 440-pound man.
Yikes.
I'm not that big. I'm a big guy, but I could tell you if I got hit by a truck, it would hurt.
It would.
A teen in Russia became pinned under a tombstone after he tipped it over during a little vandalism spree.
See, that's why you don't do that.
It took 4 rescuers to lift the 600-pound gravestone off the 16-year-old boy's leg after he helped knock it over. That and many other headstones had been vandalized that night, and he got caught. Lip Sync Battle is a thing on Spike TV, and it's one of the most watched original series in the history of that channel. Over 4 million viewers a week. Now, Spike and Nickelodeon are teaming up for Lip Sync Battle Junior, which will replicate the concept, except it'll be with kids, and it'll
that's cute.
most likely be much worse.
Do you remember the
Or
lip sync
better, I
show
don't
from the
know.
80s? It was called Putting on the Hits.
I remember that.
You remember it?
That was good stuff.
My dad used to make us watch it every single Saturday night.
Made you watch it? That was awesome. You didn't like it?
It was ridiculous. And he used to make us watch wrestling. It was on right after wrestling.
I knew I liked Charlie for a reason. Can't wait to talk to him tomorrow. New Zealand's Mark Leslie Payne was on his way to court to defend himself on charges of driving with a suspended license. Unfortunately, he was late for his hearing because he was pulled over for speeding. Knowing he was about to get caught driving again, still with a suspended license, he came up with a plan. He pulled over and he jumped into the passenger seat. The officer was not really buying the situation, though. When he got up there, he was the only one in the car. Sir, I need your license and registration.
I wasn't driving.
I wasn't driving. Who was driving? I don't know. He took off. No, it was you. We watched you from back there. Not sure what you think just happened. A man from Ecuador returned from a business trip to find his house had been burglarized. That's not good.
Aww.
When he says it was his house that was robbed, we're not talking about the stuff inside. I mean the entire house.
Oh.
He came home, told the police there was a vacant space where his home used to stand. His neighbors confirmed that 4 men had taken his home apart and carried the pieces away.
What? What kind of house was this?
He'd been staying in a home while the investigation continues, not to minimize what happened, but the guy lost his entire house. If you can come and cart your entire house away in just a few pieces, maybe it's not a house. You know, that's kind of the new thing now. Everybody's building these little tiny houses. Well, that's what happens.
Right.
Somebody could steal your house.
Jeez.
A Jefferson County, New York man was trying to evade a patrol car that was following him. He pulled into a driveway hoping to make it look like he had arrived home. Turns out it was the driveway of the deputy who is following him at the time. So there was this guy the officer wasn't arresting him. He was just driving in front of this police car, and he turned and the officer turned. The officer was going home. This guy pulled into the officer's driveway. So he didn't do a very good job evading the man. I think that's kind of funny. Eugene, Oregon is the place, and a man walked into an entertainment store and demanded money and threatened to shoot the cashier with apparently his finger because he had it under his shirt like a gun.
Right.
But his hand came out from under his shirt and he was holding just a finger. Everybody started laughing and the guy was caught.
Don't laugh at me.
I think that's really funny. It's not funny that the guy was robbing the place because that's bad. That's really bad. But he's not that smart, and he went in pretending to have a gun, which was just his finger under his shirt. And it's funny that he pulled his hand out, not realizing that everybody else is going to realize that. Yeah. Let's move on to our strange law. If flying over the state of Delaware, it is illegal to fly over any body of water unless you are carrying sufficient supplies of food and drink. So if you're flying over Delaware, you can't fly over the top of one of their bodies of water unless you have enough food and drink for everybody on board. I don't understand that law.
I don't understand that either.
That is a strange law. This has been your Scoop of the Day.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by Knowles Systems. If you have funds earning less than 6%, listen to this. Commercial mortgage bridge loans pay 6% to 8%. That might be just what you need. You're placed in first position on loans secured by high-quality commercial real estate like hotels, apartments, and office buildings. Your principal never fluctuates in value. You receive 6% per year paid monthly, and your principal is returned in full at the end of each cycle. You never pay commissions, management fees, or asset charges. And you can make these loans inside or outside of an IRA. Start earning 6%. Go to commercialmortgagebridgeloans.com right now. What are you waiting for? Go to commercialmortgagebridgeloans.com. Again, that's commercialmortgagebridgeloans.com.
John and Heidi.
Thank you so much for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Monday. I'm excited to visit with our guest today. We've got Mark Bragg. He is the author of a book called The Economic Conservative Social Liberal, which I've got a copy of it here, and I apologize. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Mark, I promise I will, and welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and I thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you, and this is one of those topics that I'm always very interested in, and when we talk about politics, because it's one of those things that every 4 years we have a presidential election, and every couple of years we have senators and congressmen that are up for re-election, and this is one of those things that if you watch football, you don't get a say in who's going to play. If you watch baseball, you don't get a say in who's going to play, but this is a thing where you do get a say. You get to go and cast a vote, and your voice gets to be heard. And it's just such a great thing that when people, if they don't go out and vote, they really shouldn't complain because hey, you had an option to go out and do something, and you didn't do anything. But there are a lot of people who they haven't been out to vote. And this year, do you think we're going to have more new voters than we've had in a while?
Well, it's a little difficult to say because I think there's a combination of elements going on here, the first of which is that we have so many players on the Republican side. And of course, we lost last week Carly Fiorina and Chris Christie in the Republican side, but the combat between Bernie and Hillary is very interesting. The thing that is happening, though, is that people are coming out, but they're not asking the questions that I think are extraordinarily important. And as a consequence, what we've got is a bunch of personality fights with people throwing spitballs at each other, and we never really get to the substance of the campaign.
Yeah.
So my orientation is, and this is a very short book. Kindle says it's an hour and 27 minutes to read it, and I think it can actually be faster than that because it's only 112 pages. But the premise here is that we need to be better educated as voters about the stuff that's really, really important, and that's primarily economics. In 1992, James Carville was credited with having coined the phrase for Bill Clinton's campaign, "It's the economy, stupid." Yeah. And it is. It still is. It's worse, far worse today than it was in 1992, and voters just have to become educated about it.
Now, Pew Research says the percentage of independent voters in the United States is the highest it has been in 75 years. So let's talk about that. What does it mean to be an independent voter, and how is this group going to have a big effect on the 2016 presidential election?
Well, the people who actually define themselves as independent are both Republicans and Democrats and unaffiliated folks. So it's a huge body of voters, and as the parties have been taken over by the extremes, the religious right has taken over the Republican Party, and the left-wing socialist progressives, unquote, I'm not even sure what a progressive is, but they've taken over the Democratic Party. So there's a huge body of folks here in the middle that we call ourselves independent voters. And that's our website, by the way, independentvoters.com. And the issue there is how much movement is there among independents, either a little bit to the left, the Democrats win, and if it's a little bit to the right, the Republicans win. Yeah,
and that group in the center, that makes up a big chunk of voters, and it makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
It does, and the issue really is becoming educated as an independent so you know what you're doing, because the vast majority of the American electorate is completely ignorant about economic subjects.
I definitely understand what you're saying. I'm on Facebook, and I see some very well-meaning people saying things that are so completely incorrect, and you're like, do I correct them or what do I do? And this year with the election, and it's like this every 4 years. We have somebody running against somebody else, and you've got this group versus that group. I have seen literally friendships torn apart because of social media and because of politics.
Well, what I've tried to do here in terms of the content of the book, when I tell people the title economic conservative, social liberal, I'd say 85% of the time people will say, well, that's me. I'm economically conservative, but I am liberal on social issues, and I think that represents that vast majority of independent voters in the center. But it does cause conflict. If you're not opposed to gay marriage and you have a friend who is opposed to gay marriage, then you might be less friendly. I don't know.
When we talk about the campaign that we have right now, we've got completely varying opinions on things, and kind of both ends of the spectrum. And I don't know that we necessarily have a candidate that's right in the middle, but we've got one spectrum and another. But when we start talking about things like benefits, I was reading here some of the information that you have says in 2015, Social Security paid out $3 billion with a B, $3 billion more in benefits than the tax revenue received. First time in history of that kind of event. Now, how in the world did we get to this point?
Well, because the vast majority of voters that do actually cast ballots then pay absolutely no attention to what their representatives are doing in Washington for the next 2 or 6 or however many years they last, and keeping an eye on what Congress is doing is supposed to be the job of the press. But most reporters, and I say this for when I was a young reporter, I knew zero about economics and the impact of congressional activities on our economy. Well, I spent 15 years as a working reporter and 10 years as a political consultant during the Reagan administration, and I've been in business for another 25 years. And as a consequence, I look back at some of the stuff like this that you're talking about and say, how the blazes did that happen? And I can give you an example.
Okay.
Social Security now has 55 million recipients. Medicare is almost 50 million recipients. And it now is able to cover everybody. So whether you've put anything into it or not, you are able to draw out benefits at an extraordinary level. And if you do that, it goes into the red. Well, guess what? We've used up all of the reserves. The Social Security Trust Fund, unquote, is not really a trust fund anymore. Lyndon Johnson broke into it in 1964 in order to pay for the Vietnam War. He used Social Security Trust Fund money. Yeah. So, and almost nobody in the press paid any attention to it, and therefore the people were uninformed, and it went on. Jimmy Carter, in 1978, required that Social Security benefits be made available to immigrants who had maybe even just arrived. They'd never put anything into the system, and they were unable to take out maximum benefits. So this kind of stuff happens without anybody paying any attention to it.
It would be a good idea for people to pay attention before they vote and vote for the people that they feel are going to take care of their best interest and their needs. And one of the ways they can get informed is by picking up a copy of the book, Economic, Conservative, Social, Liberal. And again, we're visiting with the author of that book right now. The author's name is Mark Bragg. And I like the kind of the subheadline here. It says, the toxic atmosphere in Washington and Wall Street greed are destroying our country. There's still time to save America if we work together. You decide. And I love that, working together. And I think that's going to be the key to everything in the future. You know, instead of looking at see if there's a little R behind their name or a little D behind their name, vote for the person, you know. And it's crazy to me how many people will blindly vote for a party rather than a person. How in the world did we get to a point where that's the case? It's
difficult for people to know what's in the hearts of the people that they're voting for, if they really are committed to the good of everybody. But I'll give you an example of something that really does require cooperation, and it's something that both sides can totally agree on. Basically, that's our current level of trade deficit. Now, you know, people's eyes roll back in their heads when you start talking about economics. But over the last 20 years, we have exported between 25 and 30 million American jobs to foreign countries.
Wow. And
that trade deficit in 2014 was $508 billion. That means $508 billion more was sold to us by foreign countries than was bought from us. Well, guess what that does to the federal budget? All those folks who are unemployed and unable to take care of themselves, are homeless or without insurance or whatever the circumstance is, all those folks end up showing up in the federal budget, and our trade deficit almost matched exactly our federal budget deficit for 2014.
Wow.
Well, we got to get together and work on that trade deficit issue, but in a very smart way. We've got to demand that foreign countries buy from us as much as they sell to us and achieve trade balance. It's really that simple.
And again, that's key is working together there as well, working together with the other countries, because they need to understand that that's good for them as well.
Well, we hope they do, but really my preoccupation is within the welfare of the American public, and our citizens and our constituency, and so I'm less concerned with what goes on in foreign countries, but unfortunately we're so far apart in Washington right now. When I was there during the Reagan administration, Republicans and Democrats worked together and talked to each other and had lunch and all that kind of stuff. Today, those guys don't even speak to each other.
Yeah.
The left and the right are so far apart that they can't even find stuff that they can work on together that's absolutely pivotal to the future of America. Trade balance is one of them. corporate tax inversion is another one. Here's one that'll cause your eyes to roll back in your head. All of those circumstances where the jobs have been exported to foreign countries, that's been done by American multinational companies.
Wow.
It hasn't been done by foreign governments. It's been done by Americans who go over to a foreign country in order to capture cheap labor.
Yeah.
And in many cases, it's virtually slave labor. And it lowers their price of production, but it doesn't lower their price of selling the stuff back to America. They sell it back to us and keep the profits offshore so they don't have to pay taxes on it.
Wow.
And there is very little coverage of this topic in the conventional press. It's called corporate tax inversion, INVERSION. Google it, and you'll see some stories that'll just make your teeth rattle. Because there's so much of it going on right now. There are $3 trillion worth of profits of U.S. companies being held offshore so they don't have to pay U.S. taxes.
Again, visiting right now with Mark Bragg. He's from the website independentvoters.com. He's got the book, Economic Conservative, Social Liberal. And now, where can I find a copy of this book if I'd like to pick up a copy of this, sir?
You can find it almost anywhere, certainly on Amazon, Kindle, Audible. I did the narration myself, read by the author,
Nice.
It's in the catalog now for Barnes & Noble, so if you ask for it in any of those places, you should be able to find it. Mm-hmm. And also, it's available on the website. Takes you right to Amazon.
Very nice. Now, one other thing that I got to ask, and I should have asked this back when we were talking about, Social Security and all of those, but I see that you have the answer to this, and it says the answer will stun you, so I have to ask, how many people are receiving checks from the federal government right now?
100 million.
Wow. 100 million people.
It's a staggering number of folks. The Department of Agriculture's budget in the new Obama budget that was submitted on last Monday, the department's budget is $158 billion.
Wow.
73% of which goes to food stamps and other nutrition programs. So that means the federal government is buying from the corporate farmer primarily and turning around and giving the food away to people who don't have to do anything to get it. And that budget, that federal budget number, is almost equal to the total production of America's agriculture.
Isn't that crazy?
I think.
Yeah. Well, I really do appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. Again, the book is called Economic Conservative, Social Liberal. Mark Bragg is the author of that book, and he's been our guest today. Mark, thank you again for taking the time. I really appreciate you chatting with us today.
Call anytime. I'm available.
Well, I really do appreciate that, and I will. I'll reach back out between now and when the election happens this fall. I think we need to do everything we can to stay on top of this and be as informed as we possibly can be when we get the opportunity to vote, whether you've been to a caucus or a primary yet, or if you haven't been to those things. This is going to be a year that's going to make a lot of change. There's going to be a lot of difference depending on which side you vote for. And again, when you go in there and do that, make sure you're informed so you know what you're voting for. Again, the book is called Economic Conservative, Social Liberal, author Mark Bragg. Thank you so much for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Monday.
This portion of the program is brought to you by Keystone Treatment Center. Addiction is no laughing matter. Call Keystone Treatment Center toll-free at 1-844-204-1055.
Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Expectant mothers who exercise generally have smarter babies than expectant mothers who don't.
I disagree with that. I didn't exercise at all, and my children are both brilliant.
Explains why they both lick the windows all the time. Just kidding. Hey, the longest... Oh, fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
I almost messed this up. The longest engagement lasted 67 years. They were engaged for 67 years. They ended up getting married, and they were married when they were 82 years old.
And they were divorced 6 months later.
It just didn't work out. Hey, fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
The more a person struggles to get out of quicksand, the faster they will sink. If you ever find yourself in quicksand, just stay calm and you'll float there.
I did not know quicksand was a real thing. I thought that was only in cartoons.
No. Hey, fun fact number 810 for you, Heidi.
All right.
The most overdue book in the world was returned 288 years after being borrowed.
Oh.
You know where that happened?
No.
It was in the Sydney Sussex College in Cambridge, England. 288
So somebody
years
must have
later.
found it in an attic or
Yeah,
something
they're like,
and said, hey, we
this,
better take this
I
back.
believe this belongs to you. And they're like, yeah, the fine is $9,800. I don't know. It doesn't say how much the fine was. A couple of fun facts for you. Coming up, unfit for swine. That's on the way.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by RadioReallyWorks.com. I know you're listening to a podcast, but did you know the John and Heidi Show is also a radio show? And for those of you who have businesses, you should consider using radio to advertise your business. We can even help you create some catchy little jingles or amazing radio ads that will help pull people in. Get all the details or just learn more at RadioReallyWorks.com. That's RadioReallyWorks.com.
John and Heidi.
Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Monday. A woman's neighbors complained that she had too many animals in her home, including a disgusting potbelly pig, they say. By law, the woman could only keep one pet. I'll give you one guess which one she chose to keep.
The pig.
Yes, the woman in Florida had to get rid of 5 of her pets because, according to the bylaws in her
Wow.
neighborhood, she could only own one. She had cats and dogs and a couple of potbelly pigs. That's what the neighbors couldn't stand was the pigs, but that's also why Elaine Sherman thinks, hey, you know what?
If
You
I
don't
can
like
only
it?
have one, I'm keeping the
Whatever.
one you don't like.
I'm going to get rid of the pets. So she kept the potbelly pigs. She says, I was afraid my neighbors might try to poison them. It's just crazy out there right now. Her neighbors protested about a machine she had installed to repel insects, and they said that it was something that attracted the pigs. She said, I cried all day yesterday. These pigs are my pets. So she had some sort of bug zapper put in. The pigs liked it, and the insects didn't because it zapped them and killed them. So here's my question. Now, Heidi, you and I have a couple of puppy dogs.
We do.
If we were to move into a neighborhood and they said you can only keep one puppy dog, which one would we keep, or would we just move?
We would not move into a neighborhood that only... Remember, we were looking at moving one time, and they
Good
said you have to
answer.
get rid of one of your dogs, and I said, no.
No
we
thanks.
won't live here then.
Not going to move there.
Yep.
So I think that is the correct answer, and I'm really sad that Miss Sherman decided that she had to get rid of her pets. But that's something that's important. If you're moving into a neighborhood and you happen to have pets, make sure that you can have those pets in that neighborhood.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just asking for trouble.
Right.
You know, because if you have potbelly pigs, that's not. I'm not going to
not
say
a
that's
typical
weird
pet.
because it's I know people that have them, but it's not a normal pet. So if you have a pet that's not normal, make sure you can keep that pet in the neighborhood that you're planning on going to. That's all I wanted to say. Coming up in a bit, we're going to talk about your doctor. Where did your doctor go when they're sick? To another doctor? Well, we'll talk about it. It's in a bit.
This portion of the program is brought to you by RVRealtor.com. If you want to buy or sell an RV, go to RVRealtor.com. List your RV for free. Learn more at RVRealtor.com.
Here's something I never really thought about before, so I'm not sure who was asking this question, but it says, do you ever wonder where your doctor goes when they're not feeling well? Chances are they might not see doctors. A study from Yale University has found that one-third of all American doctors do not have regular doctors. So they don't go see a doctor on their own regularly. So 1/3 of the doctors don't have a personal physician that they can write
I'm
on
sure
the line.
they don't, because they can self-diagose
This
and
is
prescribe to themselves.
Far worse than the regular population in general. And it says they have access to the better than average health care. The results varied by specialty, with pediatricians more likely to have a regular doctor. Internists, pathologists, and surgeons were the least likely. So if you're one of those and they're going, who's your doctor? And like, me, I'm my doctor.
Right.
What if you're unconscious? Well, then it's going to be kind of a tough surgery.
If you're unconscious,
I'm
you're
out
taken
cold.
to the emergency room, and,
Then
they deal with you.
That guy's
so.
my doctor.
Yeah.
then. All right. Coming up, we're going to talk about marriage. It's on the way.
John and Heidi.
One of the things we talk about here a lot is marriage, and the reason we do that is because we're married to each other. This beautiful woman I work with every day, isn't she cute? Check her out. Hey, baby, how you doing?
Fortunately for them, they can't see.
Well, turn on your webcams. Wait, we don't have webcams?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, this is my wife over here. If you happen to have a marriage, it's on its way down, here are 5 things you can do to lift it back up again. It says the quickest way to turn around a downward cycle in a marriage is with at least 5 positive connections a day. This is from Carol Lindquist, Ph.D. She's got them letters behind her name so you know it's right. To give your marriage a quick lift, try this. Every day for 3 days, say something positive to your spouse. Heidi, I love you. You're beautiful. Is that positive?
Yeah, those are positive.
Recognize something he or she's contributed to the household or relationship. Touch him or her affectionately, or notice something nice that he or she is wearing. don't tell him or her that you're going to start being positive. Just start. Oh, I already told you. Just start doing it. If you're not used to expressing these kindnesses, the first few might be kind of hard to choke down because you don't know how to do it, but it does get easier. And they say the change, according to Dr. Lindquist, promises to have remarkable changes in a positive way. So just keep on doing it. That's from Woman's Day. And again, 5 positive things per day. So go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
I like those jeans that you've been wearing for 12 days in a row.
Would you leave me alone? Coming up, going to talk about bad
I do like
driving.
your haircut. Your hair looks really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Going
you're
to
welcome.
talk about bad driving. It's on the way.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by Knowles Systems. If you have funds earning less than 6%, listen to this. Commercial mortgage bridge loans pay 6% to 8%. That might be just what you need. You're placed in first position on loans secured by high-quality commercial real estate like hotels, apartments, and office buildings. Your principal never fluctuates in value. You receive 6% per year paid monthly, and your principal is returned in full at the end of each cycle. You never pay commissions, management fees, or asset charges, and you can make these loans inside or outside of an IRA. I'll give you a toll-free number to call, 888-547-8007. Start earning 6% now. Call 888-547-8007.
John and Heidi.
Bad drivers, listen up. It's not your fault. It's in your DNA. Says
Okay.
here, might as well stop cursing at that bad driver weaving in and out of the lane in front of you. According to new research from the University of California, Irvine, he can't help it. It's in his genes.
Bull.
The study found that people with a particular gene variant perform more than 20% worse on a driving test than people with a different DNA sequence. That may explain why there are so many bad drivers out there, because about 30% of Americans have this variant, Heidi. Mm-hmm. Am I one of those 30%?
I don't know.
Do you think?
I don't think there's any truth to this study, so...
Well, cerebral cortex is the findings. It says these people make more errors from the get-go, and they forget more of what they learn time after time, end quote. Ironically, the research team has not set out to discover insight into driving, but chose the driving test because it used some common skills. Kramer said he'd love to do new research now and find out how many people involved in car crashes have this gene variant. So he's saying, now that we know that it's here, because they were originally not even doing a study about this. They stumbled upon it, probably on their way to work when some guy cut them off. So, yeah, jerk. I'm going to check into his
I think
genes.
it's ridiculous.
So they're saying that these genes lead to bad driving, and now they want to check and see people who are in car accidents if they happen to have these genes too.
I think the thing is that people aren't paying attention.
What's that now? I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, see, there you go. And so if people are on their cell phones and they get in an accident, that's because some DNA genes.
Yeah, their
bull.
genes. Yeah, it's
no
their
way.
genes. All right.
Ridiculous.
Well, maybe not. Coming up, we got some good news to share. It's on the way.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by the John and Heidi Show. That sounds kind of funny, but it's true. Go to your local radio station and ask them to start carrying the John and Heidi Show. Here's the best part. They can carry the show for free. They play a couple commercials, but it doesn't cost them anything every month. So if you know a radio station that could use a little bit of help, send them our way. Send them to johnandheidishow.com. Again, johnandheidishow.com. We would love to do a radio program in your community. Then you could listen to the podcast and listen to us on the radio.
John and Heidi.
We always try to wrap things up with some good news, and it's a Monday, so we always need some good news on a Monday. This is an interesting dose of good news because I don't know how to feel about this, but I guess it's good news. Can models and actors deduct the cost of plastic surgery as a business expense?
I sure hope not.
Well, the answer is yes.
Oh my gosh.
Listen to this. Models and actors can use their cosmetic hair care, clothing, physical fitness, and expensive dentistry, which is purely cosmetic, as a business expense.
But not like a nose job or liposuction, things like that.
Let's keep listening. The treatment of entertainers has specific tax laws that are not applicable to others. Some performers may be able to show that an expenditure on cosmetic surgery has been incurred solely for the professional purposes that their job requires. That expenditure may be allowed, A clever accountant finds all kinds of loopholes in tax laws. Example, radio performers. Oh, hey, this is us. If we would like to do TV work, but we have crooked teeth or we have something that's preventing us from doing that, cosmetic dentistry would give us the perfect smile, and then we could, in fact, go to work and work on television, and we'd be able to write that off.
We better
According to
get
this.
on that.
This establishes the fact that cosmetic work was purely to enable our TV career. So maybe the John and Heidi show will be coming to a TV channel near you. And I'm going to have to do something. I'm 100 pounds overweight, so can I...
Liposuction,
Is there surgery?
I
I
think?
can do? You going to write that off?
I'd like to have my girls lifted.
Would you just stop?
Well, they really should be perky and happy if I'm going to be on television.
I do need to enhance my...
We need to contact James Buss,
I need to...
our accountant, find out if we can do all this.
I think it's going to be a big old no. I don't think we can really do this.
I think he could work his magic.
These people are using loopholes. I don't think it's... I wanted to share this as good news because I think that it is good news for those of you out there who somehow can utilize that for your own personal gain. I'm not going to try it, though.
I'm going to lift my girls.
No, you're not. I needed to. They were in the way at work. All right. Time to say goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
Time now for the bonus break. Only available here on the John and Heidi Show podcast.
John and Heidi.
And your bonus break is brought to you by the good folks at Knowles Systems. And if you haven't heard of them, well, you need to listen up because I got to tell you all about this. If you have funds earning less than 6%, maybe you should check into a better system like Knowles Systems. They have commercialmortgagebridgeloans.com. If you've never heard of a commercial mortgage bridge loan, I'm going to tell you what this is. It's a loan paying 6% to 8%, and it could be just what you need. You're placed in the first position on loans secured by high-quality commercial real estate like hotels and apartments and office buildings. Your principal never fluctuates in value. You receive 6% per year paid monthly, and your principal is returned in full at the end of each cycle. You never pay commissions, management fees, or asset charges. You can make these loans inside or outside of an IRA. If you'd like more info on how you can start earning 6% or more right now, call 888-547-8007. I'll give you that number again in a second, but first, you might want to just check out the website if that's easier. commercialmortgagebridgeloans.com. Again, commercialmortgagebridgeloans.com or 888-547-8007.
John and Heidi.
Now your bonus break. Top 10 things you should not do in the event of a fire. Have you ever been at a place where there was a fire?
Yes.
We had one at our house once. Remember that?
Yes.
Our son caught the house on fire. That was such a weird event. Remember, I was in the basement on the phone, and I heard this. It was right after Christmas, and I heard this awful noise coming from upstairs. I thought it was one of those fire trucks. And then I heard you screaming. I was like, I got to go. I'm pretty sure my house is on fire. And you're throwing little pans of water on it.
I couldn't.
Meanwhile, I had a fire extinguisher sitting right there. I was like, that's what this is for. So anyway, here are the top 10 things you should not do in the event of a fire. Number 10, do not check the TiVo to make sure it's set so you don't miss it.
Oh, good Lord.
Don't do that.
This is a silly list.
Number 9, if the smoke rises too much, don't crawl on the floor. That's how you get carpet burns.
Oh, my gosh.
Number 8, chant, the roof is on fire. You're not supposed to do that. Number 7, run back inside and attempt to save the frozen foods from defrosting. No, don't do that. Number 6, don't put it out with your little sister. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. Number 5, things that you should not do in the event of a fire. Do not kill the annoying dog next door. Sure, the excuse, everything was so crazy, makes sense right now, but later you won't be able to explain how you went back into the fire to get the hatchet. So, there you go. I didn't write these. Can you tell?
Yeah, and I'm not
Number 4.
even hardly giving you any attention on these.
I've noticed. You've actually moved on to another project. Come back, Heidi. Come back. Number 4. Don't don your chili pepper costume and sing your best rendition of Hot, Hot, Hot. Don't do that. Don't take a deep cleansing breath. Just calm down and repeat until calm. What? Number 2 on the list. I'm almost done, and I'm this far in. I gotta finish. I gotta see where this is going. I think they get better towards the end, don't
You'd
they?
think.
Number 10 thing, or Number 2 thing on the top 10 list of things you should not do in the event of a fire. Do not ask the 911 operator if the firemen can bring marshmallows and hot dogs when they come.
You all right? See, now, we have very different sense of
I do want
humor.
to do that.
Yeah.
And the number one thing that you should not do if you're in a fire, do not approach your traumatized neighbor and say, hey, that reminds me. You want to come to my barbecue on Sunday? If his house is on fire.
Now that one is funny.
Don't do that. That's bad. See, aren't you glad we hung in
I'm
there?
so glad I hung in there till
There
the
were
end.
a couple that were good. You ready for some other fun stuff here?
Sure.
These were some fun facts that we didn't have time to get to. Did you know that Salvador Dali, he was an artist, right?
Sure.
At one time, he arrived to an art exhibition in a limousine filled with turnips. That guy was an interesting dude.
Yeah, I guess.
Did you know that it would take 29 million years for a car traveling 100 miles an hour to reach the nearest star? That's a long drive.
Who would do that? Who would figure that? Because it's not ever going to happen. So why would you even try to figure it out?
Somebody calculated that.
So ridiculous.
In case you might want to know. And, that's the kind of thing that we had a guest last Friday, The Frozen Journey. He was talking about, traveling to another star. So they must have been going more than 100 miles an hour in his book because they got there in 700 years. This one was going to take 29 million years. Another interesting fact here, the fur of the bitterong, also known as the Asian bear cat, smells like popcorn.
Oh.
They say the scent is believed to come from a gland located near the tail. Guess what else is located near the tail?
Yeah.
It smells like popcorn on that critter. Mine does not smell like popcorn.
I can vouch for that.
All right, we're going to have two things to wrap things up here, and then we'll be done. And I need to clean up my files because I got all kinds of junk on here that I probably shouldn't have. First of all, have you ever heard anybody say you got the lion's share of that?
Yes.
You ever wonder why? Why is it called the lion's share?
Why?
So if somebody gets the lion's share, how do you think the lion feels about it? Well, would you want him to share your feelings? Probably not. Most people assume the expression stems from the idea that the lion, being the king of the beasts, the most ferocious and powerful individual in the jungle, should get it, like the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Anyway, he always sits there and gets what he wants. That's kind of in the right spirit, but the phrase is actually more specific. In an Aesop fable, a lion, a cow, and a sheep, and a goat form a hunting party. They kill a deer, and the lion divides it into 4 equal parts. He takes 3 of the parts, which you would call the lion's share, and then lets the others divide up the last one. And he's the lion, so nobody really questions him on it.
Okay.
So now you know why it's called the lion's share, because the lion...
I assumed it was because the lion is going to take what he wants and you get what's left over.
Yep, he took 3/4 of it and then let the other 3
That
divide
makes
up
sense
1/4.
to me.
So now on to a fun story to wrap things up. A New Zealand man not only proved that he was a bad crook, but he also proved to be even a worse gas station attendant. The man attempted to rob a gas station by tying up the station attendant in the back room. When he came back out, there were several customers waiting to pay for fuel. So, for fun, he thought, well, what the heck? He took his disguise off and went up and started helping customers.
Oh, my gosh.
Quickly realized he didn't know how to work any of the stuff. Flustered, he left the station empty-handed. But in his attempt to do some extra work without his disguise, it made it really easy for them
the cops to catch him.
Yeah, tell him. They said, I'm not exactly sure what was going on. He came out of the back room. He helped us for a while, or tried to, but didn't know how to run anything. Then he ran away.
Huh.
So
Funny.
What an idiot. It's almost as dumb as me trying to, pre-read all this stuff that I didn't pre-read here.
There you go.
All right, that's to do for your bonus break. It's brought to you by Knowles Systems. If you have money earning less than 6%, get a better system. Work with Knowles Systems. Check out commercialmortgagebridgeloans.com to get all the details. Earn up to 6 to 8%. Again, commercialmortgagebridgeloans.com.